Hello. So this video will assist you in completing your Chapter 10 lecture notes. We'll begin with number 1 and proceed in numerical order. For some of the questions, I may elaborate a little bit more than what's provided on the slide. So muscles make up about half of the body's mass. They provide ATP for the body and various processes by transforming chemical energy into a type of mechanical energy that allows the muscles to exert force for movement. So our first question asks, what are the 3 types of muscle tissues? The 3 types are skeletal, cardiac, and smooth, each of which we will look at in more detail as we proceed throughout this presentation. Question 2, what is the primary function of the muscle system? Well, the muscle system provides movement of bones and may aid in the movement of fluids such as blood. It maintains body posture and body position by stabilizing our bones. And as I mentioned, stabilizing joints. And it also provides heat generation. But the primary function is contraction. So for testing purposes, this is what you should write and put a star beside. And excuse me, contraction is a muscle's ability to shorten and then return to its original state, depending on the presence of myofilaments and their arrangement. All right, number 3. Of the 3 muscle types, which is the most regenerative? So the most regenerative is the smooth muscle. It has the greatest capacity to regenerate. It has an ability to divide and increase the number of cells that are present. So smooth muscles will be located on a lot of your organs. If there is minor friction or damage that is caused to them, they would be able to regenerate and provide more cells to support that structure. Skeletal muscles, however, are not able to divide. They do have muscle fibers that can provide more protein or an enlargement called hypertrophy, but they are not able to divide or regenerate like the smooth muscles are. And then as for cardiac muscle, they don't regenerate at all. In the event that a cardiac muscle is damaged, those cells will die and they will not be replaced. All right, so next is asking us to look at the prefixes that are used for muscles. So throughout your text reading, you may see any one of these 3, myo, mys, or sarco, used as prefixes for muscles. So myo means muscle, mys also means muscle, and sarco means flesh. All right, so for number 5, we're going to use the chart to list location, function, and contraction, and the morphology of the 3 types of muscles. So first we have skeletal. Skeletal is located attached to muscles both directly and indirectly. Their function is to create movement of bones. The contraction is regulated voluntarily. They contract rapidly, tire easily, but then provide a powerful force or movement. Underneath function, you can also list that it requires the nervous system to stimulate it. And morphology is that it is single, very long, cylindrical, multinucleated cells with obvious striations. Again, morphology is that they are single, very long, cylindrical, multinucleated cells with obvious striations. All right, next we have smooth muscle. The location would be in the walls of hollow organs. Examples would be the stomach, urinary bladder, or your respiratory airways. Function is to create movement of substances through a tract or a pathway. To create movement of substances through a tract or a pathway. Contraction regulation is involuntary, so it can contract without the nervous system to stimulate it. And its morphology is that it can be single or fusiform, spindle-like shapes. They are unnucleated. There are no striations. And typically, very slow and sustained rhythmic contractions. All right, and then finally, in the chart for the cardiac muscle, locations is only in one place, that is in the heart, and specifically the walls of the heart. Its function is to forcibly move blood through the walls of the heart chambers and arteries. Contraction is involuntary. It is controlled by heart pacemaker, the nervous system, the endocrine system. The contractions are slow and they do not tire easily. They're very rhythmic. And then the morphology is that these cells are branching change of single nucleated striations. An intercalated disc is present, which is a cross band that separates the opposing end of the cardiac muscle strands. All right, under number 6 is asking you to define these special characteristics of muscles. This slide provides you with some images of locations and shapes and appearance of the various types of muscle tissue. For number 6, I'm just going to read what you need. You can feel free to pause the video so that you're able to populate the information. So excitability is the responsiveness or irritability of that particular muscle. Its ability to receive and respond to stimuli. Contractility is its ability to shorten forcibly when it is stimulated. Extensibility is its ability to stretch. And elasticity is its ability to recoil to its resting length. So whatever the length of the myofilaments at the time of the contraction, it should be able to return to that state. All right, for number 7, what are the 4 important functions of muscle tissues? Now, actually, we went through these 4 previously, and I didn't ask that you write them down. I only provided you with the 1 primary. So for question 7, you would need to fill in each of these. Again, it is movement of bones or fluid, maintaining posture and body position, stabilizing joints, heat generation, especially skeletal muscles. An additional function is the protection of organs, the formation of valves, the control of the pupil size, and the ability to cause goosebumps are some additional functions that muscles are associated with. All right, number 8. Briefly describe the growth structure of a skeletal muscle. So I provided you with an A and B. Each muscle is served by 1 artery, 1 nerve, and 1 or more veins. Please put a star beside that one. Each muscle is served by 1 artery, 1 nerve, and 1 or more veins. So each will have an enter and exit position where there may be a connective tissue sheath at the end of those muscles. Every muscle fiber will be supplied by a nerve ending that controls its particular activity. And a large portion of the nutrient and oxygen that is needed is generated within your muscles and can also produce a large amount of waste. All right, so I'm realizing that my slide is not providing you with the additional portion of number 8. So I will apply it. Let's see. All right, so we just went over number 8 and we completed A and B. Then you had 2 additional bullets that provided skeletal muscle functions, supports cells and reinforces the whole muscle. And then it's asking for the layers of a muscle cell from external to internal. So this slide provides you with the completion of the A, B, and C for number 8. You have the epimysium, perimysium, and the endomysium. So listing them from the external structure to the internal would be to list these in order. So A is epimysium, which is a dense, regular connective tissue that surrounds an entire muscle. The perimysium is a type of fibrous connective tissue. It actually surrounds just the fascicles or just a group of muscle fibers. And then finally, C, the endomysium, is composed of a thin or fine areolar connective tissue, and it surrounds each muscle fiber individually. So looking at this diagram, the epimysium, again, surrounds the entire muscle fiber. So it would be the portion that would connect to your tendon or aponeurosis. Here, we have our perimysium, which encloses or wraps a group of muscle fibers. And then here, you have your individual muscle fiber that is surrounded by the endomysium. All right, for number 9, how do muscles attach within the body? So on this slide, it shows you that muscles will attach in 2 places. They'll attach at the point of insertion and the point of origin. The insertion is the movable bone that it's attached to, and the origin is the immovable portion or less movable bone. So in some cases, you may have muscles attached to more than one bone. For number 9, there can also be a direct and indirect attachment. So also, if you would write, direct attachments would be located on the epimysium, fused to the periosteum of the bone. It may also be a perichondrium of cartilage. Indirectly, there will be a connective tissue wrapping that extends beyond the muscle. It can be a rope-like structure, which would be considered a tendon, or a sheet-like structure would be an aponeurosis. And then number 9 asks you, what is aponeurosis? And it is a sheet-like connective tissue wrapping that is an attachment that extends beyond the muscle to a skeletal element, which would be some bone part. And I said that was number 9, aponeurosis. That was number 10, my apologies. Number 11 is asking that you provide the definition for the following microscopic structures. So what I've done is provided you with a slide that goes in order for you to provide a definition. My definitions are very short and brief. So first we have sarcolemma, which would be referred to as like a cell or plasma membrane. of the muscle, excuse me, the sarcoplasma is similar to the cytoplasm of an animal cell. Glycosomes provide glycogen storage for muscle cells, particularly the storage of oxygen. Myoglobins, are present in your glycosomes. And again, they specifically hold the oxygen that is provided in your muscles. Myofibrils are densely packed, rope-like elements that contract, which is the contractile unit of muscle cells. All right, number 12, what is the functional unit of the skeletal muscle? That is the sarcomere. Again, the sarcomere is the functional unit. It's the portion that exhibits the striations. All right, and then number 13 is asking you to label the striations that are provided on an image. Let me see what I have. Okay, so this is the image that's provided under number 13. The first arrow would be your Z disc. The second would be the H zone. The third would be another strand of Z disc. So the Z disc are also referred to as the I bands, and the H zone is also referred to as the A band. And then on the bottom right, that would be the M line. So a description of each of these has also been provided on the slide before, where you have the H zone, which is the lighter region of the midsection of the dark A band, where filaments do not overlap. The M line is a line of protein myosin, which bisects the H zone. The Z line or Z disc is a coin-shaped sheet of proteins on the midline of the light I band that anchors the filaments and connects the myofibrils to one another. The thick filaments run the entire length of the A band, where the thin filaments run the length of the I band and partway into the A band. And then finally, the sarcomere is the region between the two successive Z discs. So the interactive that I provided for you actually goes through how this structure works and gives you a more detailed description of each part of this, this particular structure. All right, so for number 14, the myofilaments are protein strands, and there are two types, list them. So the two types are actin, which are thin filaments. So the actin myofilaments is the first one, which are also your thin filaments, which you can see here, which are the parts of the sarcomere. The second part is the myosin, or the thick filaments. Number 14, what produces the striation of the skeletal muscle? And the answer is the arrangement of the myofilaments, specifically the actin and myosin. So it is the orderly arrangement of the actin and myosin myofilaments within a sarcomere that produces those striations. All right, so this slide talks in more detail specifically about the thick myofilaments, which are going to be your myosin. This slide talks in more detail about your thin myofilaments, which would be your actin. All right, so to answer number 15, What is the major function of the sarcoplasmic reticulum? And your primary function is here, is the regulation of the intracellular calcium levels. It's the regulation of the intracellular calcium levels. It also maintains the level and releases it. So it stores and releases the calcium for the sarcoplasmic reticulum. All right, starting from 16 through 21, I believe. Yes. Each question is provided and an answer is provided. So for number 16, what is the role of tropomyosin in skeletal muscles? Tropomyosin serves as a contraction inhibitor by blocking the myosin binding sites on the actin molecule. 17, what causes muscle fatigue? The intense exercise and short durations. Intense exercise of short duration. 18, what are the two types of muscle contractions? It can be isotonic or isometric. So they can be within the same tone or within the same length. 19, what causes muscle tone in the body? It is the state of continuous partial contraction. So if you are one who works out regularly, initially when you begin, you will see that you have no muscle tone to the area that you're working out. But over time, as you're able to maintain that continuous state of partial contraction, the size of your muscles in that particular area will increase because it's able to maintain that partial contraction. What are the effects of exercise on muscles? That would be to increase the size, the strength, and the endurance. And then finally, which type of exercise increases muscle strength and flexibility? That would be aerobic, will increase the muscle strength and flexibility. And then resistance exercise would be the type that will increase the size of the muscle. All right, well, I hope that you find this video helpful. I apologize that we were not able to meet in class, but feel free to use this video to complete questions for your overview as well as your lecture notes. All right, thank you.